Welcome to Spoiler Talk for David Duchovny's Miss Subways. What do you want to talk about first?
Um, yeah, that's a good question because I don't think so. Sometimes when we do spoiler talk, we have things that we're taking issue with. Sometimes we have stuff that we don't understand, and I feel pretty resolved with everything. I feel like this story satisfied me, and I don't really have anything to really take issue with or be confused about, except for maybe like how how did Khan know that jumping in front of a train was going to be the right thing to do?
Yeah, so that's at the end. Yeah, I don't. And how was it the right thing to do? I guess
Yeah,
I
that's
guess this turns into the end of the Raw Shark texts, where
right,
you have to
right.
assume that him jumping in front of the train negated everything that happened up until that point. But she still, because you go to her book reading, right, and she recognizes
Hmm.
Sid and Nancy,
Yeah.
and because she sees the kid's hair turn to snakes and she doesn't freak out or whatever. So I'm not sure how he knew that. Now, so there's some great things and there are some not so great things. So I want to jump back to one of the great things, which ties into a not great thing, I guess. So her life didn't change very much at all, which is a little concerning.
After
So she,
the
yeah,
initial saving
yeah,
Khan.
yeah.
Okay.
So the only thing I can think of is she did mention she was tutoring kids, and
Yeah.
now she's a full-on school teacher and really didn't mention much of the tutoring
Right.
afterwards. But the brilliant thing that happened there that you don't think about is that she didn't recognize Sid the first time. When he showed up at her house in the bellhop uniform,
Yeah.
he becomes a part of her life after, and he's known her for 20 years or whatever. He becomes a
Hmm.
part of her life after the con incident.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was kind of brilliant, and maybe I don't want to assume anybody maybe lost. I didn't think about it until the end, and I was like, well, wait a minute, why didn't she recognize him the for not the end when he appears and she's like, hey, it's Sid, but he's wearing this stupid little doorman costume.
Right.
Why didn't you recognize him the first time? Because the first time he wasn't part of her life, so her life changed much farther back than from when Khan entered her life. Her whole life changed
Yeah,
because
that's a
she'd
good
known Sid
point.
for 20 years and she was not dating Khan for 20 years. So the whole course of her life changed. But the one thing that remained, which is interesting, is her interest in mythology because she still knew a lot more about mythology than the average person does.
Right.
And in her first life with Khan, she was doing that. It seemed to me like in order to help him write his book, she was learning about these things.
Yep.
So there's some interesting at play stuff there.
Yeah, and I like how her interest in mythology is explained by her father telling her she can't be a priest. Like that whole father telling her she can't be a priest thing was quick, but it was very significant to like the way that the book played out.
Hmm. Yep.
And I thought that was very good. And I don't know, I don't even know what to say about that, but like I felt so good about that part of the plot, the whole, and like how it played out later on with her father, making the guy cry in confession by telling him how much better his daughter would be than he was and stuff. And I don't know if he was just like lying about that, but like that whole scene was just fucking great. Like if you want to talk about resolving daddy issues, you know, like it sucks that she had to have that kind of resentment all her life, but like to have that little bit of, validation when he's, he doesn't have many years left was, I thought was great.
I like the character of her father and his nurse. I forget what her name was.
Isn't it Ging Ging or Jing Jing or something like that?
Jing Jing, I think. Yeah, I thought that was not a lot to talk about there. I just thought that for little side characters, like you
Yeah.
said, the father plays a big role, but in really small,
Yeah, he
doses
didn't have a lot
throughout
of
the book.
screen time, yeah.
And even the nurse, like she validates or at least convinces Emmer that her father really loves her,
Yep.
which I thought was a big deal. All right, this probably I feel dumb
Here we go.
when we there's the scene. So she's interviewing or she's talking to the parents about that where she made him eat the whatever
Yeah, the goop.
that concoction, right? Yeah. When Khan walked in, it caught me so off guard. I think I actually said "Holy shit" out loud. Because then I realized
Yeah,
that
that
who
really
she's
threw me
talking
off.
to is a Nancy too. So there
Yep.
was not just that I didn't expect Khan to walk in the door, because the way that played out was super angry parent, and the next one's like, this is the way you do teach children. So I thought, oh, okay, this is just
why
showing
don't
us
you
that
beat
there's
my
two
child?
different types of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought it was more, you know, I don't know, an examination of modern parenting, that there are two schools of thought.
Yeah.
And instead, I'm blown away because Khan walks out. I'm like, holy shit. And then I have the realization that the black lady sitting in front of her is a Nancy.
Yep.
And so that he'd done super well. I thought, like, fuck, Rob's gonna be like, yeah, I saw that coming a mile away. And I just didn't. I don't know, but that was really done very, very well.
We know how well you do with disguise. I actually, I did not see that coming at all. And it was a great surprise. And like you mentioned, the fact that the appearance of Khan told you who the other person was without him writing a goddamn word was pretty fucking masterful.
Absolutely loved it. It was interesting though that Nancy had a daughter.
Yeah.
That wasn't like that was kind of a weird. I don't know how to feel about that. Let's talk about that last scene. So, two scenes that I didn't like, and not last scene, but you know the I don't know, the climax, I guess. So two scenes that I didn't care for. One can be explained away by I'm in this fucking weird mythology funk, almost explained away like a dream. That whole Central Park, her dad swimming naked with all the old people.
Yeah.
Felt a little out of place, but I was like, she's in a weird place. Like she's kind of having weird dreams and whatever. So I can kind of buy into that. Nancy didn't have to be a giant fucking spider at the end. And I'll be honest, it ruined a good portion of the mythology of this book for me when she turned into a giant fucking spider.
Well, she had to kill all the golems. They're fucking massive, strong.
I'm aware, and I thought that was brilliant, right? The whole you're Miss Subways and you're a modern god, essentially.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I thought it was really cool, and it was okay for a Nancy to have powers, but when she actually manifests as like an 8-foot spider, like 8-legged spider shooting webs, I was like, ugh, this is so fucking bad. I just couldn't get behind that.
Well, I mean, I will grant that it was the most fantastical element of the book by far. It didn't bother me.
And then he did something. I think he's just been in fucking TV for too long. I've been noticing this lately in TV shows. This book had 3 different times it could have ended. And then there was another short chapter that was just a little farther. And it could have ended there just fine. And then there was another chapter. And it was a really short one, but it could have ended there. And then there was another. I was like, when the fuck is this going to end? Like, how many more things do I need to see? So, and it was fine. It's just like, I was like, all right, this is definitely the last chapter. And then I flipped another. I was like, this is definitely last. And it just kept going. So I would have cut that somehow into 2 less chapters if I was Duchovny's editor.
Yeah. I mean, for criticism, that's not bad. I thought you were gonna come out swinging at something, but that's not bad at all. Yeah.
No, the spider thing really. It was just So all the other gods like were very subdued. Like they had these powers, but they were very kind of undercurrent of power.
Right.
And that's why I said that spider thing really. I'm not saying it ruined the book for me. I just would have been much happier with that. It would have been fine. That same kind of ending, but Nancy just having snake powers. Or instead like of turning into
some legs or like her limbs got weird or something like that.
Yeah, that would have been. The one thing I do want to say, I'm not going to mention this in there. One of my favorite lines in the book that again I think would have been lost on people is when, and this is why I had to look up the definition. When Sid is talking to Nancy about the two of them spending their lives together or whatever, he says, "You must admit, Sid and Nancy has a ring to it."
Yep.
Did you catch that?
Sid, yeah. Although I know that Sid and Nancy is a thing, but is it like in punk music or something, right?
Yeah, it's the Sex Pistols.
Yeah. Okay.
Sid Vicious and Nancy Vicious. I don't know if she had a last name. Nancy James Keaton, whatever. I don't know what it was.
But they were like kind of like a punk royal couple kind of thing, right?
Yeah. They were one of those like crazy love stories fueled by drugs and violence and that kind of thing. But yeah. So I thought that line cute. Was just buried, and great. And if you didn't get it, it didn't hurt the story. But if you got it, you were like, oh, that's fucking adorable. So that was adorable.
Yeah. That's
Also,
good.
shout out for a whole like paragraph on Alice Cooper.
I figured you were gonna. I thought you. I was
Yeah,
like, well, he's gonna love this Alice Cooper part.
I love the Alice
Uh,
Cooper part, but that's all. That's very true. That whole thing about marketing
yeah,
was absolutely how that went
that's
down.
accurate.
Yeah.
So I guess overall, things that I wish were explored a little bit deeper would have been her being some sort of subway goddess. I feel like that got a little bit of a short treatment, but like that opens up the possibility for some weird sequel if David Duchovny wants to go there. But I think that it would be difficult to make a book that is a good sequel to this. It's just such a good, like, well wrapped up story. But I would have liked to see a little bit more about her being Miss Subways, which is like a New York goddess, basically. Um, and maybe the spider was a little over the top. Maybe.
I had to look up Miss Subways, and that is an actual thing, or it was an actual thing. I don't think it's still going.
That is so weird. Like, sometimes you just have to step back and have a look at the world and be like, we do the weirdest shit. Like, and it's just it was just a marketing ploy for,
For sure.
for
Yeah.
the subway, like is explained in the book or whatever. But like, it's the fucking weirdest stuff,
So
man.
so all right. The Wikipedia page for Miss Subways says 1976 is when they stopped doing it, and there are gaps in there. Like it looks like 71 or 72 and 73 there wasn't one, so there are little gaps in there. But then from 1976 in 2004 there was an honorary Miss Subways,
All right.
which is really weird.
So they just
Uh,
they just awarded someone the title. They didn't have like a whole pageant or anything.
no, it was just it's an honorary because 1976 was the last one, and then after that, there's nothing until 2004.
Yeah, that's weird. Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with 9/11.
I mean, yeah, that's sure.
I'm just trying to find a fucking explanation. I don't know.
I have no idea. There are a couple of pictures of Miss Subways on the Wikipedia page, only like 3 of them. Miss Subways 1944 was a smoking hottie. This should all be on the regular podcast. I don't know why we're doing this here. Yeah, there's 2 pictures, but yeah, this was definitely a thing.
That's all right. That's cool. I like how grounded in history most of the book is, and even like the supernatural stuff that he threw in there is grounded in like legit mythology. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
And
very
literature,
true.
I guess.
Yep.
I guess you want to. We should probably kick back over to do our wrap ups on the regular review, huh?
I agree. Thank you, valued Patreon subscribers, patrons, donors, whatever. By the time you're hearing this, most of you, if you are in the level that gets you your coffee mug every year, should have received. Unless you're Michael David Wilson, because I think it takes like 2 months. They put the coffee cup in the ocean and push it a little bit and wait for it to, yeah. But everybody else should have gotten their coffee mugs. Hope you enjoy it. You'll be getting another coffee mug like really late this year. So it's kind of like getting 2 in 1 year because you didn't get one last year. So
But you got one.
Thanks for being valued Patreon donors. That's all I've got.